At my sister's funeral, the rain didn't just fall, it attacked. Cold needles of water stabbed down from a sky as gray as ash, turning the cemetery into a swamp of mud and misery. I stood among a sea of black umbrellas, but I felt completely alone. The world around me blurred, faces of relatives, neighbors, even co-workers, all blurred into gray shapes. Their murmured prayers were drowned out by the relentless thud of earth on wood. Each dull, heavy sound echoed inside my chest. Thud, another piece of my heart buried. Thud, another memory of Chelsea locked beneath the soil. Chelsea, my twin, my shadow, my better half. We had shared a womb, shared childhood nightmares, shared dreams under the cracked ceiling of our tiny bedroom in Flint. Now she was 6 feet under while I stood above her, still breathing, still existing in a world that felt utterly wrong without her. I tried to focus, to breathe, to keep my composure. But grief isn't something you can fight. It's a tidal wave, and when it crashes, you drown. I was drowning. Then my phone buzzed. At first, I thought it was a pocket vibration, some phantom nerve firing from stress. But no, it was real. A faint light through the rain-smeared screen, demanding my attention. With trembling fingers, I pulled the phone from my pocket. The screen almost slipped through my wet hands. I blinked the rain out of my eyes and read the message. "I'm alive, that's not me." 4 words, but they hit harder than the thunder rolling above. Alive? My entire body went rigid, paralyzed. My chest tightened so sharply I thought I might collapse. I blinked again, hoping it was just the rain tricking my vision, but the words stayed, glowing like fire on the screen. Alive. If Chelsea was alive, then who had I just buried? What lay in that coffin sinking into the mud? What had I just mourned as though my own soul had been ripped in half? I staggered backward, my shoes sinking into the wet earth. My hands shook so violently I had to clench them into fists to keep from dropping the phone. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but my throat had closed, strangled by disbelief. The world spun around me, the umbrellas, the crying faces, the priest's hollow voice, and yet I heard nothing but my own pulse thundering in my ears. Chelsea, alive. The words tore me apart. Because if she wasn't in that coffin, then someone else was. And if Chelsea wasn't dead, then what kind of cruel, twisted game was being played here? As the coffin disappeared into the ground, my mind yanked me backward, to childhood, to Chelsea as I remembered her before life became so complicated. We weren't just siblings, we were twins, born minutes apart on a bitter November morning in 1992. Our parents were young, and too burdened. Flint, Michigan wasn't kind to families like ours. The city was crumbling, jobs were vanishing, and dreams seemed to wither in the cold air. Dad was a plumber, Mom a cashier, and both carried the bitterness of lives that had never gone the way they wanted. They fought constantly, shouts that rattled the thin walls of our shabby house. We learned early that we weren't their priority. To them, we were just extra mouths, an extra weight dragging them down. But to each other, Chelsea and I were everything. She had the same dark brown hair, the same piercing blue eyes, but a softer soul. Where I was stubborn, she was thoughtful. Where I was ready to fight, she was ready to dream. I remembered Christmas Eve when we were 8. No tree, no gifts, just a fake plastic branch stuck in the corner. Our parents screamed in the other room, breaking plates. Chelsea curled up beside me, whispering through her tears, "Scott, did Santa forget us?" My own tears burned, but I forced a smile. No way. He's just busy. Tomorrow I'll give you something. That night I snuck out into the freezing dark, found smooth stones by the river, and scratched clumsy little drawings onto them with colored pencils. When I handed them to her in the morning, she lit up, hugging me so tightly I thought my ribs would crack. "You're the best brother in the world," she said. That was Chelsea. She made the broken world around us feel almost bearable. By 12, we were already working, me tossing newspapers at dawn, Chelsea babysitting to earn a few dollars. We pooled everything we had into a rusty tin box we hid under the bed. Half for food and school supplies, half for ice cream on summer days when we'd pretend, just for a moment, that we were normal kids. At night, when our parents' screaming turned violent, we'd lock our bedroom door, hide under the covers, and whisper dreams. "One day we'll leave Flint," Chelsea would say, her voice trembling. "We'll have a little house, no fights, just peace." And I would promise her, no matter how impossible it felt, that I'd get us there. Those memories weren't just nostalgia. They were carved into me. Chelsea wasn't just my sister. She was my other half, my reason for surviving. And now, if that message was real, she was out there somewhere alive. I looked around at the mourners, my phone clutched like a lifeline. No one else seemed to notice my trembling, my wide eyes. To them, this was just another sad funeral. But to me, it was a lie. I couldn't breathe. My chest heaved as if the air itself was poisoned. I wanted to scream at them all. "She's alive. This isn't her. Stop crying over a stranger." But the words stayed trapped in my throat. Because what if it was a trick? What if someone was playing me? What if Chelsea wasn't really alive and this was just some sick prank meant to tear me apart? No. My gut told me different. That bond we shared as twins, as survivors, it pulsed in my blood. She was alive. I felt it. And if she was alive, then someone had buried another body in her place. Someone had orchestrated this nightmare. But who? And why? I slipped the phone back into my pocket, my mind racing. I couldn't let anyone see what I had just read. Not yet. I studied the faces around me. Our parents stood side by side near the priest, holding each other stiffly, their expressions oddly muted. Not the broken faces of grieving parents. Something else. A tightness, a calculation. My stomach turned. Could they know something? The thought was unbearable, but it latched onto me like a parasite. As the priest droned on, I clenched my fists. Rain trickled down my collar, cold as ice, but I barely felt it. If Chelsea was alive, then I had only one mission. Find her, protect her, and uncover the truth that someone was desperately trying to bury. The funeral ended, but I stayed. People shuffled away under their umbrellas, their black coats like shadows vanishing into the rain. One by one, they drifted toward their cars, their murmured condolences fading with the sound of engines starting. Soon the graveyard was nearly empty. Just me, a few scattered flowers, and the priest gathering his notes. I didn't move. My shoes were sunk in mud, the rain dripping from my hair, my clothes soaked through, but I didn't care. My eyes stayed locked on the coffin, on the dirt piled above it. That wasn't Chelsea in there. I felt it. The message still burned in my pocket. I'm alive. That's not me. The words replayed over and over, louder than the rain, louder than my own heartbeat. When I finally stumbled toward my car, I felt like a ghost wandering through the world. I drove in silence, windshield wipers slapping back and forth, the storm following me like a curse. The city blurred outside my window, gray streets, neon signs smeared by rain, people rushing with their collars turned up. I couldn't focus on any of it. My mind was split in two. Part of me whispered, "It's real. She's alive. Go find her." The other part hissed, "It's impossible. You saw her body. You touched her cold hand in the casket." I gripped the steering wheel tighter. My knuckles turned white. The memory of that moment, seeing her still face in the coffin, came back to me. The pale skin, the closed eyes, the lifelessness. But then I thought harder. The makeup. The way the mortician had arranged her hair. I hadn't looked too closely. I couldn't. My eyes were too clouded with tears. What if it hadn't been her? What if someone wanted me to believe it was? My stomach twisted. Back in my apartment, I sat in the dark, the only sound the steady dripping of water from my wet clothes onto the floor. I pulled out my phone and stared at the message again. "I'm alive, that's not me," I typed furiously. "Chelsea, where are you? Is it really you?" No reply. Minutes passed, then hours. My eyes burned from staring at the screen. Still nothing. By midnight, I was pacing the room, every nerve in my body stretched thin. I couldn't just wait. I had to act. I grabbed my jacket and left. The funeral had been arranged too quickly. That nagged at me now. Chelsea's death had been declared, the body prepared, and the funeral held, all within a week. Too fast, too convenient. I drove straight to the county morgue. The receptionist gave me a tired look when I asked about Chelsea Newman's records. "Family only," she said. "I'm her brother," I snapped. My voice shook with an edge I couldn't hide. She hesitated, then led me down a sterile hallway. The walls hummed with the low buzz of fluorescent lights. The smell of disinfectant clung to the air. When she handed me the file, my hands trembled. I flipped through the papers, searching. Cause of death, drowning. Identified by parents. Not me, not friends, not DNA, just our parents. My stomach dropped. I stumbled out of the morgue, the folder clutched in my hand. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, but inside me the storm raged hotter. It hadn't been me who confirmed her identity. It hadn't been anyone who really knew Chelsea like I did. Just our parents. Parents who had never cared for us. Parents who had already shown greed when Chelsea inherited James's fortune. My hands shook as I remembered Mom's voice on the phone weeks earlier, syrupy sweet. "Chelsea has so much. She must want to help her family, right?" And Dad grinning at dinner, his eyes cold as steel. "She's so rich. What's wrong with sharing with her parents?" A chill crawled down my spine. Could they have done something to her? Or worse, could they be hiding her? When I got back home, the silence was unbearable. Every creak of the pipes, every hum of the fridge made me jump. I pulled out an old box of photos from under my bed. Pictures of Chelsea and me as kids, smiling with peanut butter sandwiches, hiding behind the broken Christmas tree, walking to school hand in hand. I stared at them, gripping one so tightly the edges bent. "I'll find you," I whispered to the photo. "If you're out there, I'll find you." The next morning, I went through my phone records. I searched every call, every message Chelsea had sent in the last month. One number appeared over and over, a number I didn't recognize. I dialed it. Ring, ring. Then a voice answered, low and cautious. "Hello?" My throat tightened. "Who is this?" Silence. Then the call ended. I tried again. This time it went straight to voicemail. But the way the voice had hesitated, the sharp intake of breath before hanging up, it wasn't random. Someone knew me, someone knew Chelsea, and they didn't want to talk. That night, sleep wouldn't come. When it finally did, it dragged me into nightmares. The storm, the coffin, Chelsea's voice calling my name through the wind. I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. The room was dark, the clock flashing 3:17 a.m. I reached for my phone on instinct. One new message, from the same unknown number. Don't trust them. My heart slammed against my ribs. Them. Who? My parents? The crew on the yacht? Strangers circling Chelsea's inheritance? Every possibility was a knife twisting deeper into my gut. By morning, I couldn't sit still. I drove to our parents' house. The peeling paint, the sagging porch, it all looked the same. But I felt different. Angrier. Sharper. Dad opened the door, his face lighting up in forced surprise. Scott, didn't expect you. I pushed past him. We need to talk. Mom appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel, her smile too sweet. Of course, dear. Sit down. I didn't sit. Who identified Chelsea's body? I demanded. They froze, just for a second, but I saw it, the flicker of panic in their eyes. We did, Mom stammered. Who else would? You didn't even call me, I said, my voice shaking. You didn't give me a chance to say goodbye. Why so fast? Why rush the funeral? Dad's eyes hardened. Don't start this, Scott. She's gone. Accept it. But I couldn't, I wouldn't, because deep down, I knew the truth. Chelsea wasn't gone, and whatever game my parents were playing, I was about to uncover it. The drive home from my parents' house was a blur. I don't even remember the turns I took, only the pounding of my heart and the way Dad's voice echoed in my skull. She's gone. Accept it. No, I couldn't, I wouldn't. Every word they'd spoken tonight had been laced with something off. Mom's trembling that wasn't grief but guilt. Dad's hardened stare, more like a warning than comfort. And beneath it all, that suffocating feeling I'd carried since the funeral, that nothing about this was natural. Chelsea wasn't gone. She couldn't be. I drove not to my own place, but to Chelsea's apartment in Boston. She'd kept it even after marrying James. A little one-bedroom space she'd said made her feel grounded when the Cape Cod mansion became overwhelming. The landlord, an older man named Harris, looked at me with pity when I explained who I was. Tough loss, he said, jingling the keys. But Chelsea always spoke highly of her brother. You can go in, clear out her things if you want. The door creaked open and the smell of her perfume hit me like a punch to the gut. Soft, floral, lingering in the air as though she'd just left minutes ago. I stepped inside. The apartment was neat, organized. Chelsea's handwriting on sticky notes stuck to the fridge. Pick up milk. Don't forget meeting at 2. Smile. I swallowed hard. The place looked lived in, too lived in. There was no sign of someone preparing to die. Her laptop sat on the table, still plugged in. A book lay open on the couch. And then I saw it. Her phone charger still plugged into the wall. Why would she leave that behind? Chelsea never went anywhere without her phone. My pulse quickened. I sat at her desk and opened her laptop. The screen lit up instantly, no password. She trusted too much. Her recent searches chilled me. How to transfer property ownership quietly. Signs of being followed. Fake death cases in America. My throat tightened. Chelsea had been planning something, or fearing something. I opened her emails. One subject line made my skin crawl. We know about the money. Do what we say. The sender's address was a jumble of numbers and letters, impossible to trace at first glance. The message inside was short, brutal. Transfer 1,000 by Friday, or your family pays the price. The date was 3 days before her death. As I left the apartment, a voice called out, Scott! I turned. It was Mrs. Delgado, the neighbor who lived across the hall. A frail woman in her 70s who'd always been kind to Chelsea. You're Chelsea's brother, right? She asked, her voice quivering. Yes. She hesitated, then leaned closer. The night before they said she died, I saw her. She was rushing out of here with the suitcase. She looked terrified. She told me, if anyone asks, I'm gone, but don't believe what they say. Then she hugged me and left. My chest tightened, air catching in my throat. Chelsea had been alive. She'd known something was coming, and she'd tried to warn me, even if indirectly. I couldn't do this alone. Alan, my childhood friend from Flint, had once introduced me to a man named Victor Ramirez. a private investigator who specialized in missing persons. A man who, Alan had whispered, finds the truth the police don't want to see. I called him. His voice was gravelly, calm. "Meet me in Boston tomorrow. Bring everything." The next day, I slid Chelsea's laptop and the threatening email across his desk in a dimly lit office above a pawn shop. Dust motes floated in the light streaming through blinds. He read silently, tapping a pen against the table. "This isn't random," he finally said. "This is organized. Extortion tied to inheritance. Someone knew your sister had money. Someone close." He glanced up at me, his dark eyes sharp. "And if she faked her death, it wasn't to trick you. It was to survive." The words hit me like a gunshot. Over the next week, Victor dug deep. He traced the email to an internet cafe in New Haven, but security footage had been wiped. He pulled phone records and found calls to Chelsea's number from burner phones. Meanwhile, I couldn't sleep. Every corner of the street looked suspicious. Every stranger's glance felt like a threat. Once, walking back to my car, I felt eyes on me. I turned, nothing. But then a black SUV with tinted windows rolled past slowly, lingering just a second too long before disappearing into traffic. My blood ran cold. On the sixth night, Victor called me at 2 a.m. His voice was sharp, urgent. "Scott, we've got something. Come now." I raced to his office. He had grainy security footage pulled up on a screen. It showed the marina at Cape Cod, the day before the yacht trip. Chelsea walking fast, glancing over her shoulder, a hood pulled low. She carried a bag, her face pale but determined. And she wasn't alone. A man in a leather jacket followed her at a distance. Victor froze the frame, zoomed in. The image blurred, but the outline was clear enough. It was Dad. The room spun. My throat went dry. "No," I whispered. "That can't be him. You must be mistaken." Victor shook his head. "I've seen this 100 times. The body language, the build, even the limp in his right leg. That's your father. He was following her." I stumbled back, gripping the edge of the desk for balance. My stomach twisted, bile rising. My own father. The man who had signed off on Chelsea's death. The man who had identified her body. The man who'd told me to accept she was gone. He'd been there, watching her, haunting her. That night, as I sat in my car outside Chelsea's apartment, my phone buzzed again. "Unknown number. Stop digging, or you'll join her." My hands trembled so hard I nearly dropped the phone. But beneath the fear, something else burned hotter. Anger. If they thought threats would silence me, they didn't know me at all. I was Scott Newman, Chelsea's brother, and I would tear the world apart to bring her back. The night after Victor showed me the footage, I sat in my car for hours. The city outside blurred into streaks of neon and rain, but I barely noticed. My father, following Chelsea. My father, signing her death certificate. My father, smirking at me, telling me to accept it. The puzzle pieces weren't falling into place. They were cutting me open one by one. By dawn, something inside me snapped. I didn't shower, didn't eat. I just drove straight to my parents' house, the steering wheel trembling under my fists. The house loomed ahead like a graveyard monument. Peeling paint, sagging porch, the smell of mildew. The same house Chelsea and I had once hidden in as kids, whispering promises that we'd escape. I slammed my fist against the door until it rattled on its hinges. Dad opened it, his face pale with surprise that quickly shifted to anger. "What the hell are you doing here at this hour?" I shoved my phone in his face. The still from Victor's footage glowed between us. "That's you at the marina, the day before Chelsea died. Don't lie to me." His eyes flickered, just for a heartbeat, but I saw it. Panic. Guilt. Then the mask slid back into place. "You're seeing ghosts," he muttered. "Chelsea's gone. Accept it." My chest heaved. "Stop lying to me." My voice cracked into the air like thunder. "Where is she? What did you do?" Mom appeared behind him, wringing her hands in her robe. Scott, please, she whispered, eyes darting nervously. You're scaring us. Scaring you? I spat. You're the ones who rushed her funeral. You're the ones who identified her body without even letting me see. Tell me the truth. Dad's lips curled into something between a smile and a snarl. You always were the weak one, always digging where you don't belong. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. What do you mean? I whispered. He stepped closer, his breath heavy with whiskey. Chelsea thought she was smarter than everyone. She flaunted that money like it made her untouchable. Do you know how many people wanted it? Do you know the trouble she brought on this family? My heart plummeted. Did you help them? His silence was the answer. Mom grabbed his arm, tears in her eyes. Stop, please. But he shook her off with a violent jerk. I did what had to be done, he hissed. For this family, for survival. My knees almost gave out. My mind flashed to every memory. Dad drinking, Dad shouting, Dad breaking dishes while Chelsea cried in my arms. But this was worse than all of it. You're a monster, I whispered, my throat raw. His smirk deepened. And you're next if you don't shut your mouth. Mom covered her face with her hands, sobbing quietly, but not a single word of defense came from her lips. Just silence. Always silence. I stumbled out the door, the walls of that cursed house closing in behind me, my chest burning with betrayal. That night, as I sat in my apartment shaking with rage, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Meet me at the docks, midnight. Come alone. I froze. My pulse thudded in my ears. Could it be Chelsea or another trap? Either way, I had to go. The docks smelled of salt and oil, the air sharp with cold. Fog drifted low over the black water, swallowing sound. My footsteps echoed on the planks as I walked deeper into the silence. Every creak of the wood beneath me made my nerves scream. Then I saw her, a hooded figure at the far end of the pier. Chelsea? My voice cracked into the night. The figure turned slowly. The hood slipped just enough for the light to catch her face, pale, terrified, but unmistakable. Her eyes, those same blue eyes that mirrored mine since birth, locked onto me. It was her. Chelsea, I whispered, stumbling forward. It's really you. Her lips parted, trembling. Scott. But before I could reach her, the silence shattered. Headlights flared. A van screeched to a stop behind me, tires grinding against the gravel. The doors slammed open and men in dark jackets poured out, their boots pounding on the wood like war drums. Chelsea's eyes widened in horror. She screamed, Scott, run! Hands seized me from behind, rough, unrelenting. I thrashed, elbowed, kicked, but there were too many. My fists connected with flesh, but it was like punching stone. Chelsea lunged forward, screaming my name, but one of the men grabbed her, yanking her back so violently she cried out in pain. Let her go! I roared, fighting with every ounce of strength. For a split second I broke free, my fingers brushing hers. Her hand was warm, shaking, desperate. And then, bang, a gunshot ripped through the night. We froze. Chelsea gasped, eyes wide with terror. The shot hadn't hit me, it hadn't hit her. It was a warning. The men stiffened, stepping aside, and from the van a shadow emerged. The light caught his face and my blood turned to ice. Dad. He stepped out slowly, calm, deliberate, a pistol hanging casually at his side as if it were an extension of his arm. Enough games, he growled. His voice cut through the night, colder than the ocean air. Scott, you should have listened. Chelsea doesn't belong to you anymore. She belongs to us. Chelsea screamed, struggling against the men holding her. Scott, don't believe him. Please. Shut her up, Dad barked, and one of the men shoved her toward the van. No, I lunged, but they slammed me to the deck. My cheek scraped against the wood, blood smearing across the planks. Chelsea fought like hell, her hood falling back, hair whipping in the wind. Tears streamed down her face as she clawed at their arms, screaming my name over and over. The van doors slammed shut. The engine roared to life.
"No!" I bellowed, straining against the men pinning me. My voice tore through my throat, raw and broken.
Dad crouched down beside me, his cold eyes burning into mine. "You should have walked away," he whispered. "Now it's too late." Then he stood, signaled with a flick of his hand, and the men released me. I scrambled up just in time to see the van speed off, its red taillights swallowed by the fog. I collapsed to my knees on the dock, rain beginning to fall again, mixing with the blood on my face and the tears streaming down my cheeks. She was alive. I had seen her, touched her hand, heard her voice scream my name. And now she was gone, stolen by the very people who were supposed to protect us. My parents. I stared into the black water, the storm howling around me, and swore a vow so fierce it seared into my soul. I would not stop. I would not sleep. I would burn every bridge, rip apart every secret until I brought Chelsea back, even if it killed me.